This is Kanzenshuu, the podcast, episode 367 for the week of August 10th, 2014. Welcome to Kanzenshuu,
the podcast,
an extension of the all-encompassing Dragon Ball fansite.
Kanzenshuu.
That's right, we cover anything and everything Dragon Ball in hopes of enlightening and a little bit of entertaining. We got 3/4 of the staff on the show this time. I don't know how often it is that we have more than two of us at the same time, but my name is Mike, VegettoEX, and I guess we'll progress across the country, east to west. Next up, we got Heath. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yep, that's you.
Yep.
Moving on, we got Jake. Herms, what's up?
Yay, still here.
Hooray! Julian cannot join us because he's in Japan, and he has nothing to do with the content of this episode anyway.
He couldn't make it to North American screening for some reason.
Right. Poor him. Got a chance to check it out opening day in Japan, but we can consider Julian irrelevant. For this episode, we are, if you haven't guessed it, talking about the North American debut, theatrical screenings, Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods, English dubbed screenings. Now, this is part of our continued celebration of Battle of Gods, if you want to call it that. I mean, we've been talking about it for so long now. I feel like we're coming up on probably somewhere around the 2-year anniversary of its announcement, right? Because it was late in the year in 2012, something like that.
Yeah, we're pretty much almost at 2 years.
Man, it feels longer than that, and yet a more compressed timeline than that at the same time. So we're just going to keep talking about it because it's the most recent thing, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. And then even more of an extension of that is the English dub that we're talking about. You can probably count on one hand the number of times that we've dedicated a topic here on the show to an international dub, specifically the English dub, and that is what we're doing this episode. I mean, we talked about the content of the movie so much with the Japanese theatrical debut, the Japanese home release. So at this point with the movie, all there really is to talk about anymore is the English dub itself, and the three of us all went and checked it out in theaters.
Woohoo, opening night, baby.
We did. Jake, you just saw it today, yesterday? I don't know what day it is anymore.
Yesterday, which was as far as I know, the first time it played in Hawaii. We're a little behind.
I saw that with a bunch of theaters. I mean, here in New Jersey, a lot of them played it Tuesday and that was it. And then a lot of them played it Saturday and that was it. So I think it was just kind of luck of the draw wherever you lived.
Yeah, it wasn't always on the set 4 days that were originally promoted.
No, theater by theater. It was different.
I think my local theater only did it Tuesday, Wednesday.
Gotcha.
And then that was it.
Yeah, I think one of my theaters had an encore showing on Wednesday, but we went and checked it out Tuesday. That's really all we got on deck this episode. I mean, we have a whole bunch of us, which means I have multiple audio tracks that I need to pre-process and post-process. So I'm going to keep things strictly related to the movie itself. It is a topic-only episode this week. So I say we just get right on into it. Battle of Gods English dubbed. Let's talk a bit about our theatrical goings experiences. Heath, how was yours? Did you meet up with anyone? What was the theater like? All that stuff.
So I went on the 5th opening night, and I decided to go by myself because my wife had to stay home and watch our 2-year-old. And I got there a little bit early because I had already looked online and saw that my showing was sold out.
Oh, it was? Okay.
So luckily I had already pre-ordered tickets like 2 weeks in advance, you know, nothing major. Showed up. It was a little sparse. You know, I went and got some popcorn, a soda, went and sat down. There were probably 20 people already in there. But man, by the time, 15 minutes before 7 o'clock, it was packed.
It filled up for you, yeah.
Oh yeah. We had, the movie had actually started and people were standing in the aisles on the sides, still trying to find seats. Everybody was as squished together as they possibly could. And then I noticed, I looked down, and there's movie staff members like standing down at the bottom of the steps, and they're all watching the movie
just
too.
Hanging out
like,
watching.
They didn't want to leave. It's like, this is pretty cool. So
nice.
And then after the movie, I did meet up with one of our 4 members, so I chatted with him a little bit, and then I had to run to work. So
right.
that
work
kind
right
of
after
sucked.
the movie. Gotcha. Okay, then I guess we'll go over to me. We did same thing Tuesday opening night. The movie was not sold out by the time we got there. It's actually Jeff, who I know most listeners are familiar with, back from the manga review of Awesomeness, was able to come last minute, and he was able to get a ticket right before we went over. So we showed up with a little bit of an entourage, as I am wont to do with movies. We came with myself, Mary, Jeff was there, Buddy Bryce was there, podcast superfan Buddy Albert was there as well. I think that was it. And then we met up with Forumite Shadow Dude, saw the movie with us as well. So that was pretty cool. So we had a little group. We ended up having to take the topmost lane of seats. I don't know, row of seats. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you very much. Because that was the most available. But it ended up working pretty good because it was a smaller theater. So even though it was the topmost row, it still felt right on line with the screen and not too far away. So that was pretty good. My big complaint throughout the movie was that the audio had something going on. The best I can describe it is if it was center channel only coming right out on top of the screen itself. There was no kind of dynamic range or stereo sound, surround sound, or anything. It was just all coming out of the one place. It just had no oomph to it at all. That definitely brought things down.
I know I had stereo.
You at least had stereo. Well, that's nice.
Yeah, I think it was, it wasn't surround. It was kind of a simulated surround. It was coming out all the speakers, but it was just a stereo track.
Gotcha. And that was it. And then, we watched the movie and we hung out for a little bit and chatted it up after the movie. And people had, a couple different lengths of drives to go after that. So we didn't stick around too long. So that was our experience. Jake, how about you?
So, as I kind of said, here it opened on Saturday. Unlike, I guess, most places, it opened on Tuesday. I was a little concerned that it might be postponed due to the double hurricane.
Right, we were watching that.
Ultimately didn't affect anything. Most stuff here got closed. Most places got closed down on Friday, but everything was okay by Saturday.
That's good.
So here it actually played in two local theaters. The big huge local megaplex place, but also it was playing at the Honolulu Museum of Art.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so I opted to see it there because that sounded more fun. I reserved the ticket like a month ago whenever it was first announced, but ultimately I could have just walked in. They weren't very strict about much of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I went there about 2 hours early and just looked through various exhibits at the museum before going into the theater. It was a fairly small theater there. It's just attached at the back of the museum. And it has this really weird, this very elaborate, not a wallpaper, a mural, I guess you'd call it, of this underwater scene which shows bunnies fighting garbage monsters. I just spent 15 minutes prior to the movie starting just looking at this wall.
That sounds great.
And yeah, I think I posted something on Twitter about this. And there's first off, there's this painting, and then there's this very elaborate, they've got a little plaque with the very elaborate backstory to this painting. It was imagined as the climactic battle in some very long story about bunny, fish, and trash monsters. It's some kind of ecological message like Captain Planet. It's very strange.
I think we need to forget about Battle of Gods and just talk about this for an hour. This sounds great.
This is going to be the bunny fish podcast now.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Okay. Well, how about inside the theater as the movie got going? Did it pack up pretty good?
Well, I think overall there were about 20 people, 20 to 30. It was maybe about half full. It wasn't very crowded. And, it was a fairly quiet crowd, I guess. Mm-hmm. I was reading some people's experiences on the forum about how there'd be cosplayers attending and people shouting out catchphrases and making comments throughout the movie. And I didn't get any of that, I guess, because, with an art museum crowd, it's kind of self-selected to be more on the subdued side.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, let's talk about that too. Let's talk about our the crowd themselves. Heath, did you have any loud folks?
Not really. We did before the movie started, which I'm perfectly fine with. There was a lot of talking, a lot of people telling stories, reminiscing. So that was just really nice to kind of overhear some of those.
Yeah, but they shut up when it came to the movie itself.
Yeah, but once the movie started, I mean, of course, everybody laughed at the moments they were, cued to laugh at and things like that. But we didn't have anybody yell anything back at the screen. We, everybody for the most part was pretty respectful.
Nice.
So it was kind of nice.
By the time we got in, it was only about 15 minutes before the movie started. So I don't know what the audience conversations were like ahead of time. We weren't in line with everyone, anything like that. It was the same kind of thing. When the movie got started, everyone was really quiet, really respectful. Lots of laughs at the right things. So let me ask you guys, I mean, this was the biggest moment for the crowd during the movie with Vegeta's My Bulma, and he loses it. Did your crowd kind of cheer at the same time like mine did?
There wasn't a whole lot of reaction.
Oh, really?
Honestly.
Our crowd lost it at that scene. It was really, really spectacular to hear that and feel that.
I don't think my crowd, I guess there was a reaction, but not particularly big compared to some of the other big moments.
Yeah.
But the thing that really got a laugh was the bit at the end where it's Goku impersonating Vegeta saying
yes.
Yeah,
we had a couple moments where, I mean, people were laughing so loud you could almost not hear the next line.
Yeah, we had dialogue. Some of that too.
The Oracle fish got a pretty big reaction from my audience.
Really?
The thing where it's like, yeah, I was kind of surprised. I mean, I thought it was funny, but okay, it's the line where Beerus is like, didn't you make this prediction 39 years ago? And the fish is like, did I? Yeah, I guess so.
I guess so, yeah. Huh.
And yeah, that got a big laugh, which didn't expect
That's
that.
a real subtle line. I find it funny, but it's not the kind of thing that I would expect a larger reaction to.
Yeah. It must be the art museum crowd again.
Gotcha.
They get the subtle jokes.
Right. All right, well, that's cool. I guess we have to talk about the dub of the movie itself here. I mean, like I said, that's all that's left to talk about with this. We had a good episode leading up to this. I think set the stage for us pretty good a couple episodes ago, where we had an interview with Chris Abbott, Sean Schemmel, and Justin Cook, real briefly talking about the movie and their experience with it. We kind of focus more on the movie itself to get their thoughts. But then we had our buddy Josh talk about his experience watching the dub from the red carpet debut over there in California. That was about a month ago. So I think we all went into this expecting, all right, it's the Funimation cast. It is what it is. It's mostly the accepted cast. The only big change there, I guess if you can call it a big change, was Monica Rial, who is the Kai casting for Bulma. Although we had the old Meredith McCoy, I think it is, as number 18. I think even Oolong was an older casting. I couldn't tell you who the new versus old Oolong is, though. So it was kind of a mix of casts, but the expected cast for everyone that you would expect to hear in 2014 from Funimation. So we went into it expecting that cast and probably a Kai caliber dub, which is pretty faithful and actors who know their characters at this point. And I guess, Heath, we'll start with you. What were your impressions on the dub of Battle of Gods?
I was quite impressed.
Yeah.
I thought they have definitely come a long way, and I don't think there's any debating that. They even admitted themselves that when they first started, they were all very raw. A lot of them were very unfamiliar with the series itself.
Many of them had not voice acted before, if they had acted itself at all.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's really nice to see it progress so far. You almost kind of go, gosh, man, if the whole thing would have just been like this forever, it would have been magical. But that's not the world we live in, and
right.
we just have to live with what we have, and we've been doing that for years. So overall, I was very impressed. I really enjoyed the translation that they used. I thought they did a good job with that. They took liberties, just like any dub does, but I don't think they were too far out there. Most of them were all in character, nice little shots, things more for the fans. I thought it was, get a laugh, why did you fly 25 feet over here? Things like that. It was
all right. I want to talk about that line.
It was kind of nice where they needed, but for the audience in a theater setting, I thought it worked very well.
Let's stick with that line in particular. This reminded me so much of this kind of observational humor, kind of Seinfeld-esque observational humor that DBZ Abridged would do, similar to, and
yes,
I remember this line.
That is almost exactly what it reminded me of.
I remember this line from the Kai dub because I wrote about it in the review, Nappa's I Hate the Media. It's that kind of thing where I'm like, it's kind of funny. That's not your job, though. And that's one of those lines that really stuck out to me throughout the whole thing, where I'm like, yes, I guess I could see Pilaf saying that. At the same time, I don't know, because there were a couple ones where I lost it at this one. The audience lost it as well, with Trunks saying, I want to break up, or I think I want to break up now, something like that.
But that was more in character involved with the movie that made sense.
It kind of did. I don't know. I guess I have to be the guy. I'll be the bad guy. I'll be the one who can get pegged as usual, as I have since 1998. I don't care, whatever. I'll be the one who's like, I thought there were too many liberties taken and I don't know about it. Jake, what was your take?
Well, it's a little hard to say because I heard a lot about that line in particular just before seeing the movie. So it probably, like, my thoughts on it were kind of, like, I didn't get an unbiased reaction to it.
Yeah, you came so many days later that you already had so much to read ahead of time.
So just watching the movie, I didn't really find it funny, but I had known about it in advance. So it's like, I kind of had it spoiled. So I don't know. I kind of agree with what you two said, where it's like, it feels like the kind of joke that doesn't quite fit into the movie. Like, it'd be more in place and maybe abridged or something like that.
Yeah.
But there were other lines. There was another joke like that where it's like Bulma saying, hey, Vegeta actually has friends. And it's like, jokes like that they added, it felt a lot more natural.
Yeah.
And the other thing, something that kind of caught me by surprise, actually, is that I really didn't like Pilaf's dub voice.
What's your familiarity with his dub voice, if at all?
Well, that's the thing. I've actually seen quite a bit of the original non-Z DB. I've probably seen more of the funny dub of that than I have of the funny dub of DBZ.
That's funny.
That's like totally backwards.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a lot of the DBZ dub just when it first aired on Toonami, but as far as anything I've seen recently, it's probably just been more of the DB dub.
Huh, okay.
I mean, probably watching this movie, this is the first time that I haven't seen much of the Kai dub, just checked in on it here and there.
Yeah.
So watching this movie is probably the most time that I've spent listening to like dub Goku or dub Vegeta since probably playing Budokai 3 back in whenever the heck that came out.
Gotcha. Okay, that was like 2003, 2004-ish.
Yeah, so I'm pretty out of the loop on that. Anyway, so what I was saying is that, even though I've actually been exposed to Pilaf's dub voice a lot prior to this, for some reason, I don't know, I found him getting on my nerves throughout the movie. So anyway.
That's not the character that got on my nerves.
All right, who's the character that got on your nerves?
I know. I've been saying this for years.
I know where we're going.
Even when we reviewed Kai, I've always said Sean Schemmel really needs to give up Kaio. He needs to say, you know what? I'm fine with Goku. You give this to somebody else because I just cannot do it.
I really feel like it's just, all right, here's the negative portion of our review. You expect to hear this. You probably came in ready with your notepad at hand saying, are they going to note this? Yep, okay, they're talking about it. Grumble, grumble, grumble. But
I know, that's why I didn't want to bring it up.
Seriously, it's completely insufferable. I can't do it.
The worst part is that that's how the movie opens.
It is, yeah. I feel like he's there for a good amount of time giving exposition and explanations, and they cut back to him every once in a while.
And that's the thing, though, is like, his lines are good, and he did a good job with that. It's just the voice. Oh, man.
More than anyone else. I mean, finally we have Frieza in an English dub over here. We need to have Kaio. We've never had Kaio in an English dub. I feel like he's not a major character, but he's the last major holdout that we just don't have a good representation, not even accurate, just like good representation of that character.
And he's a character who gets lots of important exposition.
Right, so exactly.
I mean, he gave, in this movie, he gives the explanation for the whole backstory of who the villain is and all that. And I had trouble just understanding what he was saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been an impression of a previous existing voice. I think it was one of the Browns back in the old Ocean Studios cast. And it's just never been there. It's one of the voices that's never been able to come into its own. I mean, you go back to Sonny Strait's impression of Terry Clason, I don't actually know how to pronounce his name. That voice is nothing like what it was in 1999. It's come into its own so much. And even Sabat's Vegeta is nothing like the almost non-impersonation of Brian Drummond that it was in 99. Schimmel's Kaio, I don't know, guys. I can't do it. I can't do it.
It's funny because his Goku in this movie was, I think, better than it's ever been.
Yeah. All right. So let's turn it over to the things that we enjoyed, the accurate portrayals, the things that really made us smile. There were a couple key scenes that everyone really wanted to know how they would be done in this English dub. I mean, Vegeta's bingo scene, but particularly when Goku runs up to introduce himself to Beerus. I mean, the joke there in Japanese is that he runs up and starts saying, "Us," or to Goku, and Kaio smacks him because, first of all, you need to address a god properly. And second of all, you're talking like an idiot.
He's being very informal.
I mean, that's kind of an untranslatable thing because we don't have a Goku in an English dub that talks like a country bumpkin. So what would they do? And they did a very similar thing where he ran up and said, "Hey, I'm Goku." And then he got smacked. I really, really liked how they adapted it, where he would say things kind of overwrought, bad dialogue. What was the good one? Like, "It's a pleasure for you to meet me, my lord." I feel like that's how they get around the desu. He would say "my lord" for those lip flaps there. But he would just say things like, "Yes, that is the thing that for you to me to say that I am responding." It felt really natural for a dub of that scene, and I really appreciate that.
That was a very good scene. I think overall they, more so than especially any movie, but even in the TV series, really adapted Goku, I think, very well as far as his mannerisms and the way he talks.
Yeah.
And just being a bumpkin. I think even Sean Schemmel in his Goku 101 video that they did for Funimation, he notes in there even that he got some lines that he had never seen before for Goku. And it's kind of like, that's because a lot of times especially movie Goku is very different from manga Goku. And with Toriyama being so involved with this movie, I think this is one of the first times that a lot of American fans really got to see manga Goku more on the stage.
I know we've talked about that a few times in the past, and Jake, you were kind of one of the earlier champions on this, where we've had manga Goku to Toei Goku to Toei/Koyama Goku in the movies, and then to Funimation style Goku, and then the movies on top of that.
And they're all different characters.
They progress in this very, very strange way. And now we're back to, like you were saying, Heath, this is a story that Toriyama came in and basically said, no, this, and he started writing a lot of the dialogue for him. So I remember a lot of the early impressions that dub fans had watching the Japanese version of Battle of Gods was like, man, Goku's really out of character. It's like, well, no, actually, this is the Goku that we know from the manga. It's just you've been so many steps removed from him that it feels so different for you. And I thought it was really neat to see that dubbed that way.
Jake, what were your thoughts on that?
Just on his characterization?
Yeah, Jake, I mean, you were saying that the last time that you really got in depth with a Z-era dub was kind of the PS2 game, maybe midway PS2 games. Heath and I have checked out, I mean, the early Kai dub, but none of us are English dub watchers for Dragon Ball. So it's been spot checks for us over the years. So how was that coming in?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the problem with, like I said before, like, I think he's better in this, I think, than he's ever been. But then, of course, I haven't been watching very consistently over the years.
Right.
But on the flip side, I guess you could say that just for me coming to this without too much preconception on dub Goku, like he did feel like it just felt like a very good voice for Goku. Like, I don't know how in keeping his performance in this movie is with how he's done in maybe throughout Kai, but it just felt in keeping with the character. It felt in keeping with Nozawa's performance in the Japanese version of this movie. I mean, I don't think there was really any point in the movie where I'm like, oh, his performance feels off.
If you go over to Kai, I mean, part of the point of Kai was to remove a lot of the filler. And a lot of the filler was a lot of the chances we had to see Goku explore some of those fun downtime emotions that we all got used to throughout the original version of Z. So to then have a movie use some of those emotions and then have a dubbing those emotions that they never really had a chance to do appropriately themselves. It was very neat. I don't know how else to describe it, but I was really appreciative of it.
Yeah, overall, I thought they did a great job. And like I said earlier, you can really just, if you're someone that's followed along as since Funimation started dubbing, you can really see the progression. And, my hat's off to them on what they did for this, because I think they've finally really figured it out. And when I say figured it out, I mean like the characters, how their voices go with them, and they just becoming the character. Because like we said, a lot of them didn't really have a whole lot of dubbing experience, let alone acting experience. And with any great thing, it just takes practice. And I think they've done a great job growing into the characters.
And just, I think script-wise, I mean, going off of performances a little bit, just looking at how they translated the script, I was going to, like, when I was halfway through the movie, I was thinking, script-wise, this is just about perfect. And then maybe towards the end, it got a little looser. Yeah. So it'd be maybe a step below, like, if you've got perfect and then just about perfect, whatever step below just about perfect would be.
That's exactly how I felt. Whereas those one-off lines from like, did we really need to say that? It was those lines, and honestly, it was Kaio that really kept it from being that level.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like script-wise, it's perfect. Some of the performances, mostly Kaio, let it down.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about other voices. I mean, and Jake, I think you outlined this perfectly. Maybe you can explain it. That Beerus and Whis, they had a blank slate to go with here.
Yeah, like just watching some of the preview clips, like I think Funimation released like half the movie on YouTube before the dub officially premiered. So yeah, a lot of me and a lot of other people kind of got spoiled on a great many things just going through those clips.
I just stopped watching them.
I mean, I think the dub voices for Beerus and Whis, they couldn't be better. And it kind of, I think, illustrates to me, like, the only things keeping this dub back were just holdovers from, just from the previous iterations of the dub, like, obviously, Kaio's voice and just a few other things like that.
I completely agree with that.
With these two brand new characters, it just, the fact that, they had a blank slate, they didn't have any the fact that they nailed them so well just shows that that's what they're capable of now.
Ahead of time, I mean, I had a little bit of Battle of Z experience with the two voices, and then some of the clips leading up to it. I was pretty much 100% on board with Whis. I thought it was great going into it. Beerus was the one where I'm like, I'm not sure. I think I need to see the full movie and get the full context to really judge it, because the voice in Japanese is really like, he's got that kind of nonchalant, just this kind of, he sighs with everything, just okay, let's get on with it already.
Everything's just an annoyance.
Exactly.
Because he's a cat.
Right. And I wasn't getting any of that from some of the preview clips, but I'm thinking, all right, a lot of the preview clips are some of the serious things, so I want to go into the movie and then judge it after that. And I'm glad that I did that, because watching the movie, now I'm fully sold on it. Like, getting all of those extra scenes with him falling down off of his bed and slinking around. I really do feel like, okay, yep, they understand Beerus, no problem. And it was totally sold there.
Yeah, you almost just, as long as you've been around a cat before, I mean, you kind of have a pretty good idea of what he should act like.
Right. Did you feel the same way, Heath, like watching the full movie?
I did.
Like, okay, yep, that's Beerus.
Yeah. I thought they did an excellent job with both of those characters. I don't know that they really could have done a whole lot better. And I totally agree with what Jake was saying, is a lot of the issues that some people still have with the dub are just more carryovers than anything. Like we've been talking about probably half of this podcast episode so far. They've really grown, and this is what they're capable of now, which is really exciting to see.
Yeah, thanks, Barry Watson. Great job.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I mean, because it's tough, because they've been able to make some of those clean breaks like Frieza and just go with it. But then at the same time, you even have people, and maybe this is just some sort of confirmation bias where I feel like I'm reading so much of it and I'm applying it to a larger fan base than it really is. But you have people complaining about Sabat's Vegeta like, oh, it's nothing like it was back in the Z dubs. Like, yeah, because it's good now.
Good. Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, yeah, he can act and he's found where the character is for him. But you do still have, and it's tough for them to juggle it, where it's they want to do it really well. They also have a fan base. So what do you do? And I guess this is what you do. The Kai dub and the Battle of Gods dub is what you end up with.
You kind of see two sides of Vegeta, not only in the film, but just in his fan base.
Yeah,
I feel like, especially on the English side, because there was a lot of reaction when it first came out. Like, for instance, the theater I was in, everybody loved the bingo scene when he started singing. And I mean, that got a huge applause. Totally. Everybody laughed. Yeah. But you'll also hear from people, oh, that is totally out of character.
Yeah. Then you go online and you see the vocal minority. Like, so that's out of character. Yeah.
And it's always been that way, I feel like, especially from early on Funimation dub of Vegeta, because fans of Vegeta in the Japanese version, fans of Vegeta in the English version, it's kind of two different things. And so there's always been this polar kind of polling of what is in character in one version of the show is not in character in the other version. Sure. And I feel like we kind of got that a little, but Sabat has done such a good job with Vegeta.
Yeah, but that being said, I mean, just watch the series. I mean, you can't change the visuals of the series. Vegeta still grew such a huge amount by the end of the Buu arc. And I feel like the fans that say Vegeta's out of character in Battle of Gods just kind of went to sleep for the Buu arc and didn't see that growth there. I don't know.
But I mean, if we're talking about the bingo scene, then like half the point is that it is sort of out of character for him. And it shows how... Yeah, it shows how desperate he is.
Right.
Goku even brings it up later that, you know, he has grown so much as a person that in order to save all of his quote-unquote friends and family, he's willing to put his pride aside to do this.
It's so in character that he acts for that brief moment so out of character.
Yes.
So what else can we talk about with the dub of this film? I mean, I feel like we talked about the script, the overall performances, some of the shortfalls in the casting performances like Kaio, some of the great performances like Beerus and Whis. Is there anything else to talk about? I mean, the music is exactly the same as it was, the Sumitomo score, so nothing to say there. What else? I mean, maybe we can talk about the English versions of the songs, both Hero and Head Chala, which are completely incomprehensible in their English incarnations.
They sound like they're in Japanese.
They do.
You actually kind of know Japanese, and you're like, those aren't words.
Those aren't syllables. That's nothing. You are saying nothing. I feel like it actually brings it down a huge amount because they're struggling so much to hit the pronunciation that there's no longer any oomph where there needs to be in the performance.
I feel like they would have been much better off just using the original Japanese version.
I agree. Yeah.
Because it's something that Funimation and a lot of dub companies have, you know, been switching to, because we live in this really weird era where they embrace the Japaneseness of things,
right?
Which is totally opposite of the 90s for anyone that grew up with that.
KMFDM, Chun-Li versus Vega. Yeah, now we're talking.
So it's just kind of like fans know it's Japanese. I don't think there's any real issue with just leaving the song in. And especially with Hero, it's such a good song on its own. Even if you don't know Japanese, it is just the performance and the way it hits with that scene.
Yeah, it's just
sound. So perfect.
Right.
So,
well, this is the thing. We can't blame this on Funimation. This is a global thing.
No,
all international versions are getting the English versions of the song. I mean, the Mexican dub had the English versions of the song. It's really, really stupid. And
it's when they send it out, it's all mixed in the audio track. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure everyone was told you're not allowed to mess with this.
The blame here lies probably with Flow and their management. Don't blame Funimation. We certainly don't.
Well, the CG was still there.
Yeah, nothing to say there.
Yes, the dub did not fix the CG.
I was really hoping it would, because it showed up and I was like, oh, damn, it's even worse on a giant theatrical screen.
It is. You know, maybe we can talk about that, because I mean, the batch of us here, we've only ever seen it at home, and yeah, sure, HD TV, whatever, but seeing it projected this way at this large of a resolution, you can kind of tell. I'm guessing that even this was not animated at 1080p, because I feel like some of the characters in the background get a little blurry, like not even background stuff, but someone who's just not the main focus, but is right there, still is a little fuzzy when it should probably be crisp if it's supposed to be 1080.
I would agree with that.
It's like, oh, you did cheap out. You're Toei.
You expect anything less?
Yeah, but I mean, exactly. But seeing it on a theatrical screen, it's like, oh yeah.
I mean, it was really nice.
It was
to see it on a big screen.
It was. I wish my sound lived up to the visual quality because, like,
yes,
oh man.
Jake, did you have any issues with your audio?
No, not that I noticed.
Yeah, I think people have even posted on the forums that, it wasn't just one isolated incident. It seems like there were quite a few theaters that had some issues.
Right, and that may just be because there's so many things going on. Some of it handled by Fathom, some of it just the local whatever, beaming it through satellite or having something local. There's any number of things that can go wrong, and it's not, the latest Michael Bay movie where everything absolutely has to be fantastic and exploding behind you and underneath your butt. So
that would have been awesome. I do say my heart goes out to some of the people that reported in saying that they didn't even get to see the movie because of all the technical difficulties. They just canceled it.
Where they started playing a different movie entirely or a TV show or something. It's like, oh man. Yeah. I was thinking about going to see it again, but the only other screening was Saturday midday. That just wasn't going to work out for my schedule this weekend.
I will be going again this week.
Oh, you are? They have another screening for you?
Yeah, we have. Nice. So we have 4 theaters in town that are showing it. 2 of them did Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the other 2 are owned by Marcus Theaters, and they have the delayed release, which is from the 14th to the 17th.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, well, what the hell? I might as well. Because I really wanted to go again, but I couldn't go on Wednesday because of work.
Yeah. I wanted to see it twice if I could prior to recording the episode, but it just wasn't.
So I figured I might as well. Yeah. And this one, I'm assuming, will be much less crowded.
Yeah, probably.
Who knows?
Well, let's talk about this, and that's the limited theatrical screening of the movie and why they may have done it this way as opposed to just releasing it or doing a full-on screening, multiple weeks in a row, releasing it as if it were anything else. There's a lot of reasons why they could have done a lot of different things. I was talking with Mary about this, and we're thinking, all right, by relegating it to such a small amount of time, you kind of get this, guys, it's imperative that you go see it right now. You don't have another chance. You have to go see it.
And it does boost your chances of having sold out shows.
Yeah, it does. So it kind of makes it appear bigger than maybe it is. So what do you 2 guys think? Was that the right choice for Funimation here? Or could they have gone bigger and still had it succeed? Or is this really the right thing?
I kind of looked at it as almost a test.
Yeah.
Kind of. I don't know. Because for the longest time, we had no idea what was going to be happening. And I'm just wondering if with Fox being involved, if that had something to do with it, that they said, no, we only want to do a short time frame because it'll cost us less money.
Right.
It just begs the question, who really had input in how this happened?
Yeah.
Because, you're going through a distributor, but you think if you had it in theaters, say even just 2 weeks, that extra week, I don't know how that would bankrupt you,
I don't know. It really did feel to me like you got to go see it right now. And
yes.
I think that worked in their benefit.
It'll be interesting to see how they handle the next film, because I think that'll give us more of a comparison.
Yeah, do you think they will do a theatrical screening of whatever the title is of the 2015 movie, if and when they get it, probably late 2016?
With the way this has gone so far, I would not be surprised at all if they did.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, this did so well, and it's so big.
I would almost be a little shocked if they didn't do it.
I think they should try again. I mean, this seems to have been a success. I mean, One Piece has really, really big movies too, but that's not going to pull in the audience. I mean, Dragon Ball has the luxury of being the right thing at the right time to have such a huge audience that just knows it as a show. In addition to, yes, cool anime, they can pull from so many walks of life to get them in the theater.
I had one other thing that we hadn't talked about yet, and that is Tarble.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of people are like...
I almost completely forgot about that.
What are they going to do? Because they didn't release it, so they can't leave that line in there. It's like, no, they're going to dub the movie, and the line is the line, and so be it. And I've always said, technically, the JSAT special was officially and legally streamed in our country. There was a way to watch it, and once something's on the internet, it's forever on the internet. So, and he was in Raging Blast too, so...
Yeah, there were people in my theater that I could tell were very confused.
Yeah.
But they would turn to their friend and I'll tell you when we get out.
Right. That seemed to be the thing where it was like, what? Yeah, I'll tell you later.
So it was just kind of nice because I knew it was coming up.
Yeah.
So I just prepared myself.
Yeah, that's the point where you start going, all right, I got to watch the audience on this line in particular.
I had a couple of those moments. Well, the first one was when Pilaf was going to show up.
Yep.
And then it was with Tarble. And I was just like, okay, as much as I'm enjoying this movie, I really have to sit back. I just want to watch the audience because I kind of want to see, what other fans' reaction is going to be to this.
Well, tell me about the Pilaf arrival, because I feel like we got kind of a non-reaction to it, but not in a bad way. Just all right, let's see where this goes.
On my end, I got kind of a mix. You could tell there were a couple grumbles, and then a couple people were just like, oh, cool. Mm-hmm. Not overly excited, but like, oh, that's neat that they brought him back. So it was kind of a mix for it. And I swear there was a guy maybe 3 or 4 seats away from me that was just like, who the hell are they?
Yeah, I found it kind of hard to gauge the reaction of my crowd.
It was so small, yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't sitting quite close enough to anyone to really hear what or if they were saying.
Gotcha.
But I saw people's heads moving.
Okay.
But
yes.
But then I wasn't really watching them at other points of the movie, so their heads could have been moving all along and I wouldn't have noticed.
All right. Well, we've talked about the Pilaf showing up, and the My Bulma was a big scene. Both versions of My Bulma, the actual one and the impersonation. Another scene that got a really, really good reaction in my theater in particular was when they walk over to Boo. There's a little bit of a reaction like, oh, wow, it's Boo. But then when Boo licked the pudding, there's an audible, oh!
I think somebody in my theater yelled out, no, he didn't.
Like, they know exactly what that is about to lead up to. Like, this is the moment where things change. And there was definitely that, oh, snap moment. And that was really fun to watch. Knowing that it was coming and hearing that from the audience was super fun.
And then right after that, when Gohan powers up and rushes at Beerus, everybody was like, oh yeah,
shit just got real.
It just like took him out, and you could just hear like half the audience go, oh, like it was like just everybody let out a sigh at the same time, like, well, that sucked.
Like that tension finally broke. Heath, I want to ask you in particular, because I mean, my last viewing of this movie was the extended edition. And so watching the theatrical version, I'm thinking, yeah, I really miss a lot of the scenes that help the scenes breathe a little bit. In particular, Boo, where he does get another chance to kind of jump up and fight a little bit.
Boo comes back like 2 or 3 times.
He does. But also Goku up on Kaio's after he's been defeated, just having that little extra explanation from him and his monologue stuff.
Yeah.
Did you feel like the theatrical cut is still a good cut of the film, or as we tend to be, do we just know too much?
I think we just know too much.
Yeah. Because
the first time that I even watched the movie, when it came out on Blu-ray, it didn't seem all that terrible to me at all. Some people were like, oh, yeah, it kind of jumps from here to there. And I can see that. Yeah. But just from a sit-down first viewing, I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I felt it was
You don't really notice it, but yeah, when you really compare how much that they cut out, just to make it work, I'm going to chalk it up to we know too much.
Another really big scene that I kind of want to mention, because, I mean, as many times as I've seen the movie at this point, it still gets a little dusty in the room when Videl kind of gives the actual announcement of what is going on, and Gohan starts tearing up a little bit. I still kind of lose it a little bit.
We had a really good reaction in my theater to Dende just... Oh, there's inside. Oh, shh! I haven't told him yet.
Right.
Everybody else just huge gasp. What? It was like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah, and I still felt it over here, and I think that's kind of where I want to go with this, if you want to call it a review. Is as much as I've said, some of those punch-up script items take away from it. As much as Kaio's performance is not Kaio to me, the overall movie itself, I still felt the same way in the same places that I felt watching it in Japanese. And I think that says a lot about this dub of the movie.
I completely agree with that.
It's like, well, I enjoyed watching it, but I'm probably never going to watch the dub again.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of how it is with us here, where it's, okay, we watched it. That was a fun curiosity. back to business. So it's tough because I don't know. Yeah, it's a thing, and that was the experience, but we have other things to do, and this isn't how we watch the series. So
I mean, to me, it ended up being more about going to see it in a theater with other fans.
It was
more than anything.
Yeah,
it was the spectacle of the event rather than the product itself.
Because even when we got out of the theater, I had met up with Nate from the forum, and he asked me, my thoughts, and I made the offhand comment of, yeah, it was really good, but I mean, I've seen it 80 times.
Right.
So at that point, it really was just about, I want to go see it with other fans.
Yeah.
I want to see their reactions. I just want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I did.
See, what I would have liked to have met up with someone from the forums, but apparently I'm the only one out here in this neck of the woods.
Right. It's just you.
But I mean, even though I'm probably not going to watch the dub again, it is good knowing that the dub is good and that people who watch it in English are, getting essentially the same movie as as it is in Japanese.
Yeah, that's the thing that we've always tried to get across, where it's Funimation's dub of DBZ is, yes, it's still Dragon Ball. At the same time, like when I'm talking about my memories of a scene, I mean, the classic example is always Gohan's Super Saiyan 2 transformation. The experience I had with that scene and the things that I heard and the things that I watched are completely different from the things that the incredibly young Toonami fan was just, wide-eyed watching for the first time, and nothing against their experience, but they don't mix. And to see Battle of Gods mix so well, even with those couple things, and I'm like, about overall, that was still Battle of Gods to me in pretty much every respect. And I know when I have a conversation with anyone about Battle of Gods, if they watch it in Japanese or English, we're pretty much talking about the exact same thing. And no matter what we're talking about, we're on the same wavelength. And I love that.
It makes things a lot easier.
We're not going to have to explain to people that, like, Beerus actually has a completely different personality, or that he doesn't sound like a chain-smoking grandmother or anything like that.
Right.
There's nothing, they got the 12 universes thing that was really accurate. There's nothing we're going to have to explain to people about, well, it's actually like this in the original version.
Right, there's no well-actuallys here.
I think there's some line about, like, galaxies getting blown up that I don't even remember, but that's about the extent of it.
Yeah, well, that's all the strength comparison stuff, and none of us talk about that anyway. So we won't get involved in that conversation. We'll leave that to someone else. Although Jake will still come back to you in the end anyway.
Yeah, I'm probably going to have to do some sort of big post just trying to explain about everything about the 12 galaxies, the 12 universes comment.
Right.
And what we do and don't know and all that. But, I mean, the main culprit there is really just DB multiverse.
You think the fan manga has destroyed any correct interpretation of that scene?
It's not their fault, but people who are familiar with that fan comic, as soon as they hear multiple universes, they think it must be exactly the way it is in this fan comic.
Right. Take the idea and run with it.
Yeah, where it's like, the whole point of the line in the movie is that it's about new possibilities, like, who knows what could be out there, what new strong opponents. It's not like in this universe there's an evil Goku with a mustache or anything like that.
Right.
But if there was...
In 2015.
I did notice one thing, which, I don't know, it's not probably really worth noting, but because I'm a big dork, I sat through the entire credit roll.
Yeah, I did too.
Like I do.
Yep.
And looking. And I noticed that they did indeed, because I'm pretty sure Toei just sent them a translated credits.
Yeah.
At least for the Japanese. And Beerus in the Japanese cast is credited as Beerus.
Well, that's the thing.
I was just like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Well, there's two things there. First of all, the translation was credited to Steve Simmons, so I'm really excited about that. And yeah, Beerus was listed as Beers as opposed to Beerus, which is the accepted spelling for Funimation's English dub. So, and I know when Josh was talking about the kind of red carpet event and then the after party, they were playing a subtitled version. It was subtitled in that as Beers. I suppose we could have asked Steve ahead of time, ahead of recording this podcast. It may also be that Steve went with Beers as the spelling for the subtitle version. And so that's what was reflected over there in the credits.
Could be.
And that's fine.
I just thought it was interesting because I know that Toei, when they released the official guide for the movie,
it's their spelling.
Listed as Beerus.
Right.
So.
I didn't notice the other characters in there. Like, was it written as Tenshinhan and Kuridin, or?
Honestly, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I will look this week.
Yeah, I only noticed Beers there because that's what stuck out to me. I wasn't looking for the other stuff.
Well, at that point, I was watching the manga panels go by, and I just happened to glance over, and I was like, oh, because I had already seen the Japanese credits way too many times.
All right, what else? Is there anything?
Something that did stand out to me is when Videl is explaining that she's pregnant.
Yes.
And she refers to her baby as a he.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting because, I mean, obviously we know it's Pawn.
Right.
It's going to be female. And, Funimation, they have to know it's Pawn. So it's like they had to have intentionally decided that the character wouldn't know that it was going to be a female. I don't know. It's a weird, subtle touch, but I thought it was kind of neat that they did that.
Yeah, I feel like they could have just said it or they or something like that. Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm looking too much into it, but it's like they intentionally made it wrong because they knew the character wouldn't have the information we did.
That's true. Yeah.
It could be either way, because a lot of times people will just insert he instead of it,
right, and
go with the male.
But that's the thing. Like they know
you just never know.
Yeah, but it's like they know people do that, so they had the character do that, even though. It's hard to explain.
Right. No, I gotcha.
I know how that goes. Before we knew, everyone, I just referred to it as a him.
Well, and that's what you ended up with, so good on you. I don't know what else there is to say. I mean, I feel like we went through the script, the old voices, the new voices, the audience, our own perspective on all of the above. I'm glad to have gotten the chance to go see it like this. I mean, we had the very, very brief double feature of movie 6 and movie 12 back in 2005. That kind of doesn't count as anything. We had Evolution that counts and doesn't count on so many different kinds of levels. This was, I used the word earlier, it was a spectacle, and I'm glad to have had the chance to enjoy it in a giant crowded room that way with other people, and to see the movie that I know portrayed the way that I would hope it would be portrayed. It's that really egotistical, like, I want my view of the movie to be shown to me so I can be vindicated. Yes. And that's what I got. So I'm happy. I'm a happy VegettoEX from 1999.
It was, I just used the word surreal.
It was, totally.
By the time it was over, just because of how accurate it was. And it's like almost something that I had never, I don't normally watch the English dub almost ever. And having that experience was, I think, really good. And by the time it was all done, it was just kind of like, did that just happen? Is this 2014?
Right.
What, it was really nice. I really enjoyed myself. The fans were great. Overall, just a really good experience, and I would totally do it again.
Would do business again. A++.
Yes.
I mean, I kind of had the same experience. Or actually, I think almost I was weirded out by the extent that I wasn't weirded out by the movie, if that makes sense.
No, totally.
It's like, of course the dub is good. Why wouldn't the dub not be this good?
Right.
It's like, I just, I don't know, if that makes sense.
No, I totally hear you.
I want to travel back in time and tell myself, don't worry.
I know.
It's all good.
I know. Go back to 1999. How old was I at that point? 17. Just be like, dude, it's okay. It's okay. It's going to be a long time, but in a few years, you will be able to talk about this with everyone else, and you'll all be talking about the same thing. And I would probably punch myself in the face, like, shut up, old man.
You go back to your future.
Get back to your hoverboards.
Yeah, when are we getting those, by the way?
I don't know. I'm still waiting. Flying cars, hoverboards, self-leasing shoes. Come on.
One step at a time. Well, I'd rather, if we're traveling in time, I'd rather we just send the modern Funimation cast back to 1999 so they could do it right from the start.
Right. It's the thing where we just wish we had this all the time, and everyone would be better for it, probably. We say that because we know what's best for everyone.
Of course. But it would probably create some alternate timeline where, like, there's World War III or something, or zombies.
Oh, there would
butterfly
definitely be
effect.
zombies.
I guess let's bring this to a close. This has been Kanzenshuu, and we have been talking about an English dub for almost an hour at this point. We must be in one of these alternate universes.
I do have a goatee.
I'm not wearing my red scouter because one of the cats broke it.
Oh, bummer.
Yar.
But next episode, we're going to have to get together and discuss the big green dub of this movie.
Heath, you and Corey and Ryan, I already did one of those, so
Yes.
it exists out there. That's good. I think it's actually in the podcast feed, so you can go grab it.
Is it really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I put it in the feed. Was I on vacation that week or something?
Yes.
Yeah, I came back and I put it in the podcast feed, so it should be there if you just dig back far enough.
Oh, good times.
I don't know if it's on the site, but it's definitely in the podcast feed. Yeah, I was looking over at the shelf yesterday and I saw those was the Warner Vision /AB dubs of those movies. I'm thinking I should put that in. That would be a great afternoon.
That would be. Yeah, I mean, you've got plenty of beer. So.
I do. I'm loaded right now. Got to put it to use. All right. Well, let's bring this to a close. I have been Mike. We have had Heath and Jake. It has been 3/4 of the Kanzenshuu staff here talking about an English dubbed product. It's craziness. It's madness. Next time here on the show, I don't know what's going on. We haven't talked about news in a while. There's a new movie. There's a game. There's content. I don't know what's going on anymore. There's just so much stuff that I can't keep up. And I don't think any of us can keep up.
I give up.
You do?
Yeah, let's just close the site down now. I mean,
We're done.
there's nothing else for us to do.
Nope. I fold. Works for me.
Julian will thank us.
Yeah, he's not here. So Julian's in charge. The end.
All right.
Send him an email explaining that he's now the sole owner and runner of Kanzenshuu.
Yeah, that'll go far.
He's grooming his children anyway.
That's right.
So he'll be good.
That's right. It'll take a few years, but we'll have a new staff coming up the ranks. Let's bring this to a close. I don't know what's happening anymore.
I don't either.
Heath, thank you.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Thank you for having you. I mean, you run the site too.
Well, yeah, I do. But I like to be polite about it.
Okay, appreciate that.
I love getting all the emails in the middle of the night that are to you.
I know.
But they're to both of us.
Dear Mr. Labrie, and he's the one reading it.
And then I don't know, maybe this is super secret, but
okay.
I love that we get tweets to Kanzenshuu and then either you or myself are tagged in it as well.
Yeah.
Even though we get it because Kanzenshoo's already tagged.
Right, we're already seeing it. That's okay.
It's like, your 140 characters are very precious. You don't need to tag all of us.
We're all going to see it. And then you have Julian, who makes tweets to Kanzenshuu. Like, dude, what are you doing?
But the best part is, while he's making them, I'm talking to him. I'm chatting with him. So it's like, why
Julian,
are you doing
stop
that?
doing that. If you want more people to see it, either leave off the Kanzenshuu or tweet from the Kanzenshuu account. Oh, social media. Someday we'll all figure it out. Technically, I'm the one who does this for a living. Jake, thank you.
Yay, thanks for having me.
Again, you don't need to say thanks for having me. We all do this. This is...
Well, Jake and I will take over next week then.
That'd be fine. I think there's been one actual numbered named podcast episode that I have not been on. And there's been a couple times where I'm like, I'm gone for a couple weeks. If you want to do a show... go ahead, and then nothing ever happens.
And we're all like, yes, now we're all on vacation.
Crickets.
Let's be done. This has been 367 of our podcast. We will see you next time, whenever that is, for 368. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up. I did have a few topics. I do not remember what they are right now, but they're coming. Then Heath, there's a lot of cool content on the site. We've been making our way through more translations that Julian has either already had done or is wrapping up now.
Believe it or not, we are still doing Battle of Gods translations.
I know, it's crazy.
We are. And we're about to do it again. Yay.
I know Julian really wants to wrap up everything before the next movie, but I don't know that it can happen. There's so much.
Well, he wanted to wrap it up before it premiered in the US.
Yeah. And that didn't happen.
We set lots of goals that don't actually happen.
Right. Like the wiki.
I don't think it's a super secret anymore that we have lives. I don't know.
Well, it's not even that. It's the...
we start on one thing and then other things come up that we have to attend to.
That's true too. If they would just stop making new stuff,
yes,
we could complete...
then we could get to the old stuff that we still haven't even done yet.
Because honestly, the movie, it takes up... there's so many little things that go into updating about a movie and keeping track of it. It's all the little pages throughout the site and then having to make new tags and pages that link to other things. There's just so many little things that have to be done anytime a new project is announced. That's why whatever you want to be done, whether it's the wiki, transformation guide, video game guide, that's why it's not done, because they keep making new things.
Yeah, I want to know why we keep getting emails still about the transformation guide.
God. Well, and
like constantly, like once a month.
No, it is. It's a lot. And I've talked about this. The transformation guide was one of the first new, like, really huge things that Julian and I did when I relaunched Daizenshuu 2003. I think the transformation guide was 2004, somewhere around there. Since then, we've had the super exciting guides, especially in particular, the Extreme Battle collections, the Chozenshu, Battle of Gods. I mean, there's been so many things that the transformation guide would kind of have to be entirely redone from the ground up because a lot of the documentation in there doesn't make sense anymore. So we'll do some other stuff before we get to that.
You need to relaunch the transformation guide so that it's just a guide to GT transformations for Game Boy Advance.
That's a great idea.
I'm just going to put a big stamp on it so when it loads, it just says current as of 1995.
Right. Well, it would be 2004, but that's fine. All right, we keep talking, but we don't wrap things up.
Nope.
Let's be done.
Let's keep going.
No, I got to pee really bad.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody.